One of the darkest moments in fantasy football occurs when you're forced to start some shit-sipping bridge quarterback off the waiver wire. Sometimes the gamble pays off and they put up a solid game, but more often than not, they drop an abortion of a fantasy performance that all but costs you your matchup. For my fantasy career, nothing will ever top Andy Dalton's minus 4-point game, which still gives me PTSD to this day. Reminiscing on this abhorrent performance got me thinking, what are the absolute worst QB performances in the modern era from a purely fantasy perspective? So in today's video, we're going to run down the top 5 worst fantasy QB performances since 2000. Number 5. Ty Detmer. In week 2 of the 2001 season, Detmer threw for 212 yards with 1 touchdown, 7 interceptions, for a grand total of negative 4.7 fantasy points. It's ironic that one of the worst quarterback performances in modern history would come against the Browns instead of for them. Subbing as a starter for the injured Charlie Batch in week 2 of the 2001 season, Detmer threw for a record-tying 7 interceptions in a 24-14 loss. In fact, 7 picks came on a 9-drive span, and 5 of them came in the second half of a winnable game. Oh, and by the way, the BYU product also had an 8th interception, but it was negated by a defensive penalty. He's the only quarterback in the last 29 years to throw 7 picks in a single game. This performance came about 2 weeks after 9/11, and I think we can all agree it was much more devastating for the world. If you've never heard of Ty Detmer, congratulations! You've spared yourself from some of the worst quarterback play one can possibly imagine. Legend has it, this dude was huffing fucking duster before this game and probably should have been tested for drugs after that 7th interception. Again, that was just 1 interception short of the all-time record. This man laid an absolute abortion on the field on this day in Cleveland. Number 4. Geno Smith. In week 11 of the 2013 season, rookie Geno Smith absolutely diarrheaed his pants for 3 straight hours. On this fateful Sunday afternoon showdown with the Bills, he only mustered up a paltry 103 yards with 3 interceptions, one of which went for a pick 6. He also had 2 fumbles lost for a grand total of negative 5.43 points. Not to mention, he was sacked 4 times. But since most leagues don't count that against QBs, and we're not doing that in this video, we'll have mercy on this poor soul. You could have plugged Stephen fucking Hawking into your lineup that day and fared much better. For many, the Geno Smith era had already died in this game, just a few weeks into his rookie season, and for good reason. The man finished his rookie season with only 12 touchdowns and 21 interceptions to go along with 4 lost fumbles. If you had put him in your starting lineup in the 2013 season, may God have mercy on your soul. Number 3. Tim Hasselbeck. In week 15 of the 2003 season, the career backup completed just 6 of 26 passes for 56 yards, while throwing 4 interceptions in an embarrassing 27-0 loss to Dallas. This netted Timbo Hasselbeck a total of minus 6.6 fantasy points. Just to clarify, yes, this is indeed a real football player. You'd be forgiven if you had mistaken him for his better-known brother, Matt Hasselbeck, no stranger himself to some garbo fantasy performances. But Matt could never do it like this, no sir. If you ask me, this performance should land this motherfucker in jail. I think he deserves to be behind bars worse than Sam Bankman-Fried, or at the very least, in a padded room with a helmet. Number 2. Peyton Manning. In week 10 of the 2015 fantasy season, the large four-headed Manning completed a mind-numbing 5 passes on 20 attempts for 35 yards with 4 interceptions, netting him a cool minus 7.12 fantasy points. This performance is particularly notable because Manning captured the all-time passing yards record while simultaneously blowing absolute cock and bumbling around the field like a drunken, homeless derelict. Keep in mind, this is the same dude who went on to win a Super Bowl that season and ride off into the proverbial sunset, mercifully calling it quits on a Hall of Fame career. Cam Newton, in an MVP season losing a Super Bowl to the decrepit 2015 Manning, has to be one of the biggest L's in NFL history. So as we can see, Peyton Manning isn't like the rest of the absolute cretins on this list. The man is a top 3 QB of all time and has gotten his roses. But this game was a level of disgusting that no human being should have to bear watching. Manning ended the game with a 0.0 passer rating, an extremely rare feat that only a few QBs can claim. Funny enough, his father Archie and brother Eli also have had 0.0 passer rating games. This family has really been through some shit, huh? My favorite part of this putrid fantasy performance? The fact that Peyton was benched in the third quarter for journeyman Brock Osweiler, who dusted off his cleats and proceeded to throw a pick on his very first drive. If this video doesn't summarize the inept quarterback play that has come to characterize the Broncos franchise, well, I'm not sure what will. Number 1. Nathan Peterman. In Week 11 of the 2017 season, Peterman threw just 6 completions on 14 attempts for 66 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, all of which were thrown in the first half. This is the only NFL player in history to throw 5 interceptions into one half, a very ignominious feat that only the Peterman could bring you. So there you have it, folks. The absolute worst fantasy QB performance of the 21st century. The Citizen Kane of dogshit fantasy QB performances, if you will. I mean, honestly, who else was going to take the top spot if not for Nate Peetelborgs? The man put on an absolute dick-sucking clinic on that fateful afternoon in sunny Los Angeles against the Chargers. Watching this performance is like watching those old grainy Holocaust videos. A strong feeling of existential dread comes over you, and it makes you wonder, why would God let humans suffer like this? So there you have it, folks. The top 5 worst fantasy quarterback performances since 2000. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment below with the worst fantasy QB performance in your career.